Welcome into episode 63 of JD's Empire Sports Talk. Of course, JD here with you. Once again, we'll do a little post-game wrap up of the Jets' Week 1 loss to the Steelers yesterday. It was a very entertaining game, to say the least, but the Jets, once again, kind of theme of the franchise at this point. Doesn't matter who's under center, who's manning the sideline, who's up in charge of the front office. Doesn't matter. They just don't find ways to win the games late. They either can't close it out, they can't get that game-winning field goal that's needed. There's a lot that goes into it, but listen, they played a lot better than they have the past few years in terms of like what they look like. Like they weren't taking stupid delay of game penalties. I believe there was one, but it wasn't really like rough. And then there was a few other things along the way where you look at it and you say, okay, this is a team that definitely look well prepared for the game. On one side of the ball, I should say, they look well prepared on one side of the ball. They had some kind of creativity to them on the offensive side. You could say that we'll get into it in a little bit, but they definitely had some creativity that they have not had in a number of years. It finally looks like they were running a modern offense, which really shouldn't be anything crazy to say, but this is a team that has not done that in a very long time. So if you want to take it that way, you can say yes, they lost the game, but they did have some moments. Listen, they lost, so you can't say this and that. They lost. They didn't win the game. That's what it's about. Wins and losses is not about anything else. It's about getting that win, and they left the win out there yesterday. They listen. People may think that the Steelers are a better roster. Me as a Jets fan, I can agree on that. Steelers definitely have a better roster than the Jets, but the Jets showed that they can actually outplay them, and they did that. The turning point in the game pretty much was Jets up 26-17. Steelers drive down, they score, make it 26-24. Gibson tries to run out a kick early fourth quarter, fumbles. Steelers get the ball back, they score on two plays after that. So that game went from 26-17 to 31-26, just like that in 50 something seconds. So that's the turning point of the game, and that's something that those teams that, the teams that know how to win games, Kansas City for a number of years now, Buffalo, you will put Baltimore in there, the Eagles now, Rams, they could say to a degree. Those type of teams, they go out there, they don't find ways to lose, they find ways to win. And that's what the Steelers did yesterday, and that's what the Jets didn't do. They went out there, they were able to take advantage of a turnover, score a touchdown immediately. They were able to take advantage of a kicker that is incredible. Chris Boswell is insane. The amount of kicks that he's made, clutch kicks he's made, and he did it again yesterday. So that's something that the Steelers they did, and the Jets didn't. They weren't able to take advantage of that, and the Steelers did, and they went home with the win by 2 points. They probably got outplayed most of the game, but it doesn't matter. Like I just said, it does not matter because they came away with the win, and that's all that matters. But let's break it down, by different groups, units on the field. So the Jets offense, they look fantastic. Like I said before, Fields impressed me a lot. I didn't think that he would be able to dominate the game the way he did because it seemed like the theme was, oh, Fields is going to do, game manage. He'll run, he'll pass when he has to, which he did pass when he had to because he only had 22 attempts. But those passes, he was 16 to 22, and there weren't any checkdowns or anything like that. There were passes that meant something. He was really trying to push the ball down the field as much as he can. Some chunk plays, him and Garrett Wilson, the connection. I know they did play together in college and stuff like that, but at the pro level, one game looked great. Wilson had 95 yards for 7 catches and a touchdown, so he looked great. That first touchdown of the game from the Jets was a beautiful pass from Fields to Wilson. It was about 40 yards or so, 30 something yards maybe. That was a beauty. And I could say that the offense looked great. Tanner Engstrand, OC, first time play caller ever in his professional coaching career. He looked great too. He looked like he had those guys well prepared. It wasn't where a team starts out in the first half, they score 30 points and don't score the rest of the game. They were consistently scoring throughout the entire game. And that was big because sometimes we see them with Jet teams, yeah, they may start out good in the first half, or really with the Jet teams, start out horribly in the first half, trying to make up for it in the second half, and it's too late. That's usually what happens with the Jets. But this time, offense was very, very consistent across the board. And for yesterday's game, I can say this, and I have been saying this. There was a few glaring, situations or themes that you can take away from the offense. Yes, the offense scored 32 points, but you have to think about this. So the yesterday's game was either the Jets were leading, or tied, or almost winning. It wasn't a wide margin. If the Jets go in there and they play a team and they're down by 2 scores very early in the game, that game plan of yesterday is not going to work. So they have to get out to either a lead or keep that game close where you're swinging, scoring possessions back and forth or something where you can keep that within range. Not too bad. If you're down more than 10, that theme of yesterday and that game plan is not going to work. It's going to be trouble if you try to go that route, and they have to make sure that that's the case. But first drive yesterday, yeah, I know they only got a field goal, but that was very good to see starting out where they dominated the line of scrimmage. Run game was great. That's where my next point. Brees Hall looked like rookie year Brees Hall again. I know his rookie year was insane until he got injured. Second year, kind of, he was all right, but it took him a while. Last year, it looked like he was getting his legs under him, but it's also they didn't use the run game at all, which we don't know. Well, it was Rodgers' offense and nobody else's. Brees Hall, finally, the vocal point of the team. 19 carries, over 100 yards. He did have 2 catches. I thought he would have more. The one was very nice. It was like 30 yards. He caught that screen pass and just took off. Hopefully, they can get him going a little more in the pass game because I would like to see that. But 21 touches, over 130 yards, almost 140 yards, probably actually over 140 yards total, scrimmage yards with a touchdown. Good day from Brees. He played good. Listen, they're doing their thing. They're gonna be fine. I just think that the offense is something that we didn't expect them to be this productive, and they were. So you gotta be happy about that. I'm sorry, Brees did not have a touchdown yesterday. Braylon Allen had one, and Fields had two rushing, which is another element you could think about. But still, besides the point, Brees' stat line is very, very good, and he will get in the end zone. But I'd like to see him get more involved in the pass game, and that comes to the next point. So the one of those teams, like I just said, was if they're down, the offense is not going to work. But hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully they're not. The next point was so the glaring hole I think everybody agreed on was wide receiver two. They don't have it, and they finally or should finally realize that yeah we kind of need another receiver because what we saw yesterday. Reynolds had 2 catches. Tyler Johnson had 1 or 2 catches. They weren't really game changing. But then at the end of the game, they're down 2 points. You're trying to make a drive to get set up at least a game-winning field goal, and they couldn't do it. Reynolds dropped a not drop the pass, but couldn't, come away with a catch that would have been tough. But I would say a normal wide receiver too probably comes up with that grab, and they couldn't do that. So that's the thing with this team. It seems like they're. I know us fans and like other people kind of realized this early on. Maybe the coaching staff did realize it. They don't want to do anything about it, but they should look into that because they scored 32 points against a really, really good quality defense in Pittsburgh without a threat of somebody else beating them down the field. Wilson was great, but he needs somebody. Rucker and Mason Taylor. I know Rucker had 2 catches for about 30 something yards. Taylor had 1 catch for 20 yards. I'm sure his production will keep going as time goes on. But you need those two for the time being to produce more because those receivers aren't really going to do much. But besides Wilson, nobody else had more than 2 catches, and that could be a problem. Especially, I know the Steelers did have a good secondary, but when teams see that on tape, they're like, oh, we're just going to take Garrett Wilson totally out of the game, and we're just going to take our chances with everybody else. And the odds of them winning, not really that high with what we've seen so far, which I know it's only one game, so it may seem like we're overreacting crazy. You have to say it like it is, and that's what we saw during week one. So let's slide to the Jets defense, which was very, very underwhelming yesterday, to say the least. I feel like they kind of didn't play as a unit. The defensive line was really good. They had 4 sacks. They were able to get pressure on Rodgers. Rodgers was making the throws outside of the pocket. Nothing you could do about that. But they were hitting him a little bit. Had, like I said, 4 sacks, some QB hits, some pressures, and they stopped the run pretty well. I know the Steelers aren't going to be one of the better running teams they face, but I think it was about 20 carries, 50 something yards from the Steelers, so they really didn't do much on the ground, and that was something the Jets were worried about. And Harrison Phillips came in, he played well. I think he could have a little more in there, but he did play well against the run. Um, Secondary, not good at all, besides Sauce. Sauce was very, very good in his specific role, but the rest of that secondary, not really good. Stevens struggled mightily. Tony Adams struggled. Cisco a little bit. Carter missed a few tackles. Carter's going to be fine. I believe Cisco will be fine, but two holes on the defense, Stevens and Tony Adams are going to be. I think they're going to be issues if they don't, if they don't figure it out. And you can't stick with them too long if they're going to be problems. And I think that's what they need to realize very quickly. It's like Stevens was getting absolutely, so especially in the second half, getting picked on the entire second half by Rodgers. If it was a penalty, if it was a big play because he wasn't getting his head around, if it was a missed tackle, a dropped interception, it wasn't to anybody else. It was right to him, and he dropped it. Stevens has to pick it up, and then with Tony Adams, just those big plays were basically solely on him. They were just getting past the cornerback, which I understand, but then you can't let him get past you, and that seemed like that was the case a few times. But Az Thomas and Malachi Moore, two rookies that are, they're waiting in the wings. Wouldn't be shocked if they're in there pretty quickly. And I know Glenn said about making mistakes. You're not going to play if you're going to make mistakes. You got to stick with that if that's the case, because you don't want these guys killing you all the time. You can't afford that to happen. And then the last thing here we have is Jets special teams. A little bit of a roller coaster ride, to say the least. Gibson, the fumble, really, really costly. That was not the time and place. I'm never saying a fumble should be in a certain time and place. That one, especially, not the time and place for that. That kind of when you knew the Steelers were going to win that game. I know the Jets did come back and score right away after that, but it's like, oh man, that's a crusher. That's going to come back to bite us. Nick Folk, pretty good on the field goals. I know he missed an extra point, but it didn't count. They all wind up going for two. That didn't work out so well, and then they were trying to chase those points throughout the entire game. Probably in that moment, you just take the one, and you want to. I know you want to get those extra points. 2 point conversion, obviously, if you get it, is better than an extra point. But you got to think about it in the long run of the game, and it seemed like that wasn't the right move. And then McNamara, two punts. Second one was very, very well. First one not good. That was probably nerves or something. That wasn't a good punt. But the second one, it was a boomer, which is why they have him on this roster. So that's encouraging. And then with Glenn, as a coaching staff, like I said, Inkstrin A plus. You did your job, man. You did great. I know Glenn is not calling the plays on defense, but hopefully he can get his input in there a little more because Wilkes' game plan sucked. He didn't adjust. Like you're not adjusting. You got to understand. Okay, Stevens is getting picked on. What are we gonna do to help him? Tony Adams letting plays go wide open to pass him. What are we gonna do to adjust to that? He didn't adjust, and Rodgers just kept going off, and they were scoring points because of that. So Wilkes and Glenn gotta work together this week because Josh Allen is, you know what he did. He scored 41 points, so he's gonna come in there and try to put a hurting on this Jets team, and they got to be able to withstand that. And they can't. I know the season's not over, but like 0-2, it's like, oh man, we're already down, and they had a game out there to win, and they got to try to get this one this week if they want a chance at making a postseason, which I know I am not feeling that, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, that'll do it for episode 63. Just go out there, follow YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all the good stuff. Give us a like, share it, whatever. That'll be it. But tomorrow, stay tuned for episode 64 with Biggie. We will start at 7:45, so a little later than usual. He'll join us a little bit into the show. He's got some things going on beforehand. But yeah, that'll do it for episode 63, Jets episode. See you guys.